Welcome to Brave Healer Productions. It's time to experience what's possible. Welcome, everyone. I'm Laura DeFranco, the CEO of Brave Healer Productions, where we are helping the world experience what's possible. And here today to help me with that mission are some of the amazing authors of one of our newest books. This book is called Healthy for Life: Foundational Skills for Parents, Teachers, Mentors, and the Kids They Love. I'm going to introduce all of these authors to you today, but before I do that, a huge shout out and a lot of gratitude to our lead author, Dr. Ilana Zablosky-Amir. Ilana, we would not be here without you. You have gathered around you this expert cast of co-authors who are really stepping up in the awareness and golden nuggets about holistic health and wellness. I'm so honored to be on this journey with you. Thank you so much for your big mission and vision with this book. So who do we have here to tell you all about it today? Philippe Brouillard is a PhD candidate in quantum science. He's a founder of Vita Quantum, where he combines the principles of quantum physics and spirituality to teach individuals how to lead happier lives and achieve spiritual growth. We have Dr. Adria Rothfeld with us. She's a functional medicine practitioner who focuses on optimizing conception and fertility through holistic researched methods for a healthy family foundation. And Patrick Nardulli is here. He's a retired U.S. Navy veteran with 20 years of service who leverages cutting-edge mind-body science to help individuals and teams unlock their potential, achieve peak performance, and build lasting resilience. Welcome, everyone. Congrats on the book launch. How are you guys feeling today?
Great.
You're excited.
I am very excited to talk with you all. Philippe, you're going to start the party off today. Tell us, give it just, take a minute to introduce your chapter and give us the why behind your topic.
Okay. So I wrote a chapter called Get Out of the Glass Prison, the ultimate solution to happiness. And it was kind of my path during my whole life about trying to figure out where my smile got away. At 9 years old, I was called a smiling kid and always being happy. And at some point, it all get away. And so I went along a path of trying to find, like with spirituality or NLP or shamanism or hypnotism, like I've did so much over the years. There was always something missing. And it's the main reason I understand while doing my doctorate in quantum science is now we can understand and explain a lot of those things that we feel spiritually make sense, but we still need to believe it blindly. So when all those part of the brain kind of thing, the left brain and the right brain connected, it made so much sense. So now understanding life is the first principle of why are we living? We're in a stress environment more than ever. We are unhealthier, unhappier than ever, but we have all the knowledge more than ever. So we're kind of, that's the paradox of progress. We evolved so much, but in the other way, we didn't evolve technically in some perspective. So if we don't get out of this glass prison of these things that we understand what life is, we'll still be suffering and we'll still need help from Adria, for example, in functional medicine, and we'll need to push ourselves on different perspective with Patrick. But if we don't understand life, we'll still try to use things outside of us, but we'll never fix what's happening inside. So that the real chapter is about understanding what really life is about with science. And most of the time, just believe it. But believe is, we've been kind of challenged over the years, just believing from religion to spirituality, it's still a blindfold belief. So bringing science to all this perspective changed everything for me and for my clients now. So, yeah.
Oh my gosh, think about this topic, you guys, how big we went fast. This is such a big idea and a big topic. If somebody's listening today and you would like to give them maybe just a first little step to help them on that journey to happiness, what would be like the first step advice you would give?
So a simple step that I'd like to give is try to question things. It's something when we were kids, we were questioning everything, trying to understand everything. And at some point during school, we stopped asking questions. Teacher doesn't like too much questions. So if you have kids, make sure they ask a lot of questions and you don't say, I don't know. No, trying to understand, try to be the explorer in your own life. And this is a simple but a very hard thing to do because it's put us on the uncertainty space. We don't know what's going to be any answer. It's challenging our ego at the same time, but it's a simple but very powerful way to do and challenging. We have all the news, we have all the information now, but does it make sense in your life? Do you apply a sense or you just stay with the information without sense, without meaning? So bring meaning by asking question in your life, and this can change a lot of things.
It can. I love that answer. Question everything and be patient when your kids ask you a million questions. Be
Yeah.
present and patient and let them, right? I love that you said that.
Yeah.
Perfect. Anything else you want to say about that?
Oh, we can talk for hours if you
I
want. I'm
know.
used to do talks and stuff. So, but it's for example, the biggest challenge I bring in perspective of challenging things. Buddha says 2,500 years ago that everything is emptiness. In some ways, that 99.999% is emptiness. So now we have quantum physics says that 99.9999% is energy. So we believe the table that we have all our computers or our phones are material stuff, but in reality, they're mostly empty of space, which is energy. But we all believe this illusion that we live in a world where everything is matter, but in reality, when you start to live, that everything is energy. And oh, that's a huge question. If you start to ponder that perspective, then you can get out of this glass prison in some perspective. So that's kind of a hint of the chapter in some ways, but in understanding what's really the nature of reality, Buddhism says that's the number one suffering is not understanding what life is about and what reality is made of. And that's the illusion of Maya in Hinduism. So there's a lot of links between all of those things. So when you start listening and reading and perspecting with questions, then you can open the door to something very different and start living very differently. So you start moving from this glass prison is you believe that life is something, but you still chasing something. And that's the hedonic concept in psychology. So yeah,
I love it, Philippe. Thank you for kicking this off so amazingly. Thank you for saying yes to the project and for being here today.
thank you, Laura.
Adria, tell us a little bit about your chapter now and the why behind yours.
So my chapter is chapter 9, Seeds of Tomorrow, which is planning for a healthy pregnancy and beyond. And I think the beyond part is key because even though my chapter is about fertility and conception, many of the factors that support that also go a long way towards supporting maternal health as well as the health of the baby, even into adulthood. So personally, why I chose this as part of a big part of my practice is number one, I was kind of a sickly, allergic, asthma, itchy, eczema kid. And I swore that I wasn't going to let this happen to my son. So I did everything, by the books. And lo and behold, I had a kid with colic and eczema and all the same stuff. And I realized genetics are pretty potent in my family. I started studying epigenetics. We always think about genetics as written in stone, but whether or not and how they express themselves is very largely influenced by lifestyle factors, many of the things that we talk about in this book. So I did things right with my daughter, thank goodness. And right now I have two daughters, daughter and a daughter-in-law in their 30s. I want to be able to help them. But what comes up a lot in my practice is women, around this age, when I'm thinking about getting pregnant, before they even start, they're already anxious because they have so many friends who are already experiencing difficulties. 10 to 15% of couples in America have infertility. I mean, that is a huge number. Sperm counts, they did a huge study between 1973 and 2011, have dropped by about 55%. And that was 2011. We can only assume that things have gotten a bit worse since then because of, all the environmental exposures. So I really wanted to embrace this so I can help families going forward. And like I said, even into adulthood with a baby.
Oh my gosh, another huge topic. And I don't, it's easy to get overwhelmed, but what I hope we're doing today for everybody listening is also giving people some hope. Oh, okay, I've had these issues, and here are some things that if I start to make some small, medium, maybe big changes, I don't know, but start small, then I can increase that, hopefully that statistic that you just shared, right? What is your advice for a couple? What should they look at first if they're having
Well,
troubles?
there are some really simple things. For instance, one of them is just achieving a healthy body composition. They've shown that about 15% of female infertility can be alleviated just by women who are too thin, reaching an optimal body composition and, reducing risks for reducing obesity. The other thing that I think is so important that most people don't know is sperm only sticks around for about 70 days. So whatever the guy is doing during those 70 days is hugely impactful. And even if they pass with flying colors their semen analysis, if they have an unhealthy lifestyle, then it could still damage the genetic material in the sperm and affect the health of the baby. And simple things like reducing exposures to plastics, swapping just one high pesticide fruit and vegetable meal for an organic had a significant impact on fertility. So these are some easy lifestyle adjustments, improving the diet, working on stress. They found that if a mom has high levels of stress hormones, it could ultimately affect the behavior of the child going forward. So there's a lot we can do that, is not that complicated, and it ties in really well with the other chapters in the book, healthy diet, movement, sleep, stress reduction. If people would embrace a lot of these symptoms and, devastating diagnoses that people present with could really be improved upon naturally.
One of the things you're helping me think about right now is in terms of the awareness that's in this book from when my generation learned things. It is so amazing the awareness that we have. And I loved what you said about, hey, even just one organic veggie, you guys, like, can you just start with this one basic thing? It doesn't have to be that you have to change everything at first, right?
It's
But yeah,
overwhelming to think
yeah,
about changing
it
something.
can be. It can be. But you guys are making it so much easier for people. Adria, thank you. Thanks for saying yes to this project and for being here today.
Not my pleasure.
All right, Patrick, how about you? Take a minute to intro your chapter for us and give us your why.
First and foremost, thank you, Laura, for driving this, and have to give a shout out to Ilana, who has been guiding us through this entire process and journey. And again, just to be here with Adrian and Philippe means a lot as well to share this space with all of you here. So just smart people, subject matter experts in the world that I know are contributing to the greater ripple that we're looking for. My chapter is chapter 17, Chaos to Calm, right? And this is the heart is the way is the concept that I want to bring forward. And it falls under the nervous system, which we know drives so much of the inner processes of our body and the way we connect mind and body and spirit for that matter and soul. And so this is a personal story for me, one that I believe we all experience, right? And may continue to be struggling with when it comes down to our self-awareness and our self-regulation, specifically that emotional regulation. And so my chapter, if we're going to stick within just the chapter itself, is about empowering the members, right? Even at the adult level, so they can model these things for their children and hold that space for them and be grounded in that. Whether you're a leader, grandfather, teacher, or otherwise, that we know we have an influence on others. And so there's this incredible emotional intake when it comes down to our resilience and our human performance that impacts our physiology, and understanding that intertwine and how it affects this autonomic nervous system, this automatic system that we have in play. And so simply what's beautiful about the entire book is that so many of us have brought in those stories that connects it and makes it real, humanizes it, is that we all have a struggle at one level, and obviously it's different for all of us. But more importantly, that we come with the science that backs it all up and that drives a lot of decisions that we make, so you can have the confidence that what you're talking about and what you're doing actually works. And then the beautiful way we broke out this book and the step-by-step, simple practical things that we can apply today. And just by walking away from one chapter, you're going to be able to apply in the moment with yourself and with your family.
Yes. Yes, with the exclamation point after that, in case you didn't hear that. There's such huge gratitude that I have for all three of you for doing what Patrick is saying today. Like you gave your personal stories so that people could really understand who you are and how you got to being passionate about writing about your topics. But then you're stepping up as the master teachers you are in the second part of those chapters to give those practical exercises and experiences. And these are going to be incredible for the adults to understand the changes they can make. Then they get to be the models for their kids in all of those healthier habits and exercises and lifestyles and ways of living. And it turns me on. It gets me excited about what's possible for people. Patrick, you also contributed a little bit about sleep. You want to just touch on that for a moment?
Sure. Yeah, I had a great opportunity to spend a lot of hours with Ilana and really distilling a lot of that down because there's so much to be said. I really come at this from a position of brilliance in the basics. We're talking about exercise, nutrition, and sleep. Sleep is probably one of the number one things you can't cheat, right? All the other ones you can get off your diet, you can get off your exercise regimen. But when it comes down to sleep, it's the one thing we need. And so I found through, my research and delving into the science and teachings along the way is that if we want to look at one thing from mental health, full spectrum to optimal performance, when we can dial in our sleep and just understand a little bit of the physiology that's undergoing the underpinning of that and how it kicks into our circadian clock, that biological clock that we're all governed by, and that there's a beautiful process that happens, right? Every hour from the moment you wake up and you expose yourself to sunlight and you anchor that, that connects to so many other downstream processes when it comes down to our healing, survivability, emotional regulation, as well as is consolidation of everything we've learned from that day. And so again, there's just a lot of beauty that comes into that. Ilana and I, we broke it out in a very systematic way to identify some of the true pillars of that and some of the nuggets that you can apply immediately and hopefully impact your behaviors.
Definitely impact. I mean, this is not your mother's healthcare book, y'all. Like, this is stuff I didn't learn until I was an adult. And so now parents today learning this stuff now, that this whole generation of kids is going to grow up with that. Seems kind of funny too about circadian rhythm and sleep. Like, hello, this is a basic foundation, right? And this is part of Alana's mission, is to get back to those basic foundations that somehow disappeared over these decades. Yes, excites me if you can't tell. So, all right, we're going to go into something a little different right now that's not really different because you all have been talking about it already. But let's take it a little further. Adria, when it comes to this health and wellness journey, we are all holistic practitioners. Why holistic? Why is this important for people to understand?
Well, I think of holistic, same kind of thing as more functional medicine, foundational medicine. I think what we focus on is instead of that whack-a-mole approach where we're compartmentalizing and just treating symptoms, we're looking for underlying issues that we can work on holistically, naturally, to improve upon so many different, a variety of symptoms, diagnoses, because those are just clues. They're clues that something's imbalanced. And just as Patrick was saying, sleep, stress, you know, diet, exercise, every single one of these plays into it. And again, it seems overwhelming. What are you going to overhaul first? But just making a few dietary changes, getting rid of the processed fats, the inflammatory foods in your diet, switching to a little bit of organic, or at least incorporating more antioxidants, fruits, vegetables, plant foods into your diet, eating lean, clean protein, reducing exposures to toxins. This is what we've been talking about. And if you go on Instagram, it's all over the place. People are really embracing this. But the problem is you need to hear it from an expert because you don't always know what's accurate and what isn't. And some of it could just, drive you into a hole underground because it gets, like you said, a little bit overwhelming. But there's changes we can make. Get rid of your plastic water bottle. Start there. So many patients come on calls with me and they're holding that water bottle, and that becomes 10 minutes part of our conversation, how they can just make a minor adjustment and reduce certain exposures. So holistic is basically starting from the ground up and, naturally taking some control of your health. That's how I think of it.
I love it. I like the way that you started this one off. Okay, Patrick, what would you add? What's your 2 cents about why holistic? Why should people really think about this?
When I think of holistic and I think of integrative, in what ways that I think of the whole being. And too often, so as a medical provider in the Navy prior to my former life, that's exactly what we did. We looked at those symptoms and we treated the symptoms. And it was only until later that I realized that there's so many other systems in place that are supporting this natural process, this homeostasis of optimal health. And that if we can figure out a way to just identify those, have the conversations with the incredible authors of this book, who bring that wisdom, and to remove those things out of our lives, we can get those things, those blockages out of our way. And again, allow the beauty of our body, this incredible physiology that we have in place here to do its job, that we can all, feel more energy, reduce stress, improve the resilience of our system. I mean, from head to toe.
You remind me to remind everybody this vessel that we walk around in is a miracle. And it does know what to do. That's part of what you're saying, but there's so much in the way of it. It's like we got to peel some layers off and get back to allowing it to do its thing. Yeah, I love that. Thank you. Philippe, how do you want to talk about holistic? Like, why does that matter?
I love this kind of question because if we go back, Hinduists were saying everything is oneness before. Everything is the same thing. That's in some way, other ways, that's wholeness. And but it's like, okay, we're all one. In spirituality, a lot of people talk about this oneness thing, like we're all the same thing. But how does it work? So if we go back that everything is matter, everything is physical, like I was explaining, versus everything is energy. So if everything is energy, then what's the problem? So when energy is stagnant, it's slow, it's become matter. And when energy is high, it can be a color, for example. A spectrum of color is just a vibration difference. And if we go back to a bit what Adria was saying about the toxicity, the food, and so on, if we go to the word nature, the word nature comes from natura. And if we look what it means, it's the power to regenerate. So everything we're separate. We're only separate when we're physical things, because physical things is our experience of their separation. But when we're connected with nature, what? All the study shows, when you're connected back to nature, you're healing. Go out from the city versus nature, people are healthier and longevity and happiness goes higher when you live in nature. The longest studies with Harvard, 85-year study, the number one factor for longevity and happiness is what? Your relationship at 50. Again, when you're connected, when you're being one with others. So every time you're connected with something else, you're feeling happier, you're feeling longevity, health is there. So if you think that everything is separate, like you go to cardiologist, they don't talk about GI, the whole body is whole. Everything is whole. Every time we're separate with something, which is non-nature, we're paying the price. All the studies shows it. But most of the time, everything is separate, even there in studies. And that's why, from my perspective, when we say, okay, everything is energy, okay, everything is the same thing, it's only vibration that change. So how can I raise my vibration? And then I'll change my health, I'll change everything. So there's a lot of concept coming from Hinduism, Buddhism, or shamanism. They're all saying the same thing about wholeness. So if I'm eating something of plastic, for example, plastic is not natural, is man-made, is not nature made. So there's a price to for our health and longevity and happiness. Everything is intertwined. And one my first scientific paper, which book going to be published soon, the link between happiness and longevity. If you're sick, you're unhappy. If you're healthy, it's way easier to be happier. So when you're connected and you're saying, should I eat this or should I do this? Is it a line of being me, myself, and I connecting with others or with other things in my surrounding? If the answer is yes, go for it. If the answer is no, it's a simple question again. It's a question of, am I connecting to things? So when you're giving money, studies show when you're giving without expectation, you're connected to something bigger because you're becoming one with the other person. So you experience something inside of you. You can feel those feelings going to be changing. So if you're saying, okay, every action I'll be doing is about being whole with others, your whole life's going to change. So it's so important, both so discarded. Like we're an expert in different domain. I did my MBA every domain, but the business is everything is connected. If you see everything separate, business doesn't go well. Same thing in health, the same thing in every domain. So it's a word that we should study more. What's whole? What's wholeness means for me? Question again. So yeah.
Amazing. I hope y'all are hearing all just the golden nuggets of awareness today. One perception shift, one sentence can change your life. And y'all, all of you have said some of those sentences today. I have one more big question for you, and it's going to be tough to not give me 100 things. So I'm going to challenge all of you. Wait, I'm going to rewind for just a second because Adria said something earlier that I just had to chuckle at the visual she gave me when she said whack-a-mole. Like, cause that is like how we have been brought up to deal, right? Oh, there's a thumbs up. See, and my energy is already talking about this. Like, you try to get that symptom and that symptom and that, and I don't know. I just had to go back to that for a minute, Adria, because that made me laugh. But also the connection, Philippe, with nature. This is so important. And I do have friends who don't like to go camping, so to speak, or they don't like to go outside, or they don't like the bugs, or they don't like whatever it is. And I'm like, you guys, you got to go anyway. Like you need to get outside. So this morning was my walk in the woods, and it completely reconnects you in the moment instantly. It's one of those things, right? Yeah, brilliant. Okay, here's the big juicy question. Last one of the day, Patrick. What's the most important thing you want people to know about staying healthy for life?
I think the greatest thing, the message I think I want to get out to the world in this pursuit of holistic well-being is to become more aware of what's going on in their body, make that connection between the mind and the body and the heart, specifically our emotions. The greater awareness we can have of our emotions and understand that they drive our physiology, the greater influence we're going to have in our ability to emotionally regulate in the moment. And here's the beautiful thing about this, Lara, is that when we can emotionally regulate in the moment, we can co-regulate with others.
Yeah, I love how you're talking about something that ties right into how Philippe was talking about it too. And that connection requires a little bit of that skill. And I think there are a lot of people who need to practice. Let's just say it nicely that way. So important, Patrick. Thank you. Philippe, what is the thing you want people to know about staying healthy for life?
So you pass approximately 20 years of your life learning to work. You pass another like almost 50 now years of working, and then you're at 70. And usually at 70, you become unhealthy. And study shows the average healthy lifespan of people, it's around 70 years old. And people would die around 83, 84 or something. That's the average. So at the end of working life, now you become unhealthier, but you're still living for another 13 approximately of unhealthy life, and where you're supposed to be retired at that point. So why don't you start right now being healthy and start questioning why? Because we see life as, I wrote a chapter in my other book in French, and is like, we're conditioned to get sick with age. And it's just untrue. Like, you can reverse all of this. And with health, you can accomplish so many things. But we're so at the effect of things external. So if you start to be healthy right now and live a healthy life, you'll be happier for sure. But you will be able to experience even more what you really want to experience. I've been in the functional medicines for 25 years now, so I've seen a lot of very sick and advanced cases. They have no life because they're unhealthy. So health and life goes together. You can very fulfilly bite in life if you're healthy, if you have energy, if your sleep is good. So it doesn't matter if you're 60, 70, 80. I've seen 80 people that are super healthy and they're still enjoying life. So it's a choice. It's a choice. And a lot of the time you ask people if you want to live longer, and people don't want to live longer because longer means unhealthier. But everything can change. And this book, I think, can really change your perspective on how you see life and how you should see health. So challenge yourself. What kind of life you want?
Good challenge for today, and for the perfect timing of this book, helping people along that journey. Adria, it's all you to kind of close us out on your answer to this. What's the most important thing you want people to know about staying healthy for life?
I think people have to trust their instincts. A lot of people go to the doctor and they get very cursory lab testing done, and they're told everything's fine, but they're tired, they're not sleeping, they're gaining weight, their hormones are out of whack, and they know something's wrong intuitively, but they really don't know how to fix it. And starting with the groundwork, all the things we've been discussing. And the reality is, it's not effortless. You do have to put some time into this, but it's far from impossible. And you're going to pay now or pay later. That's what I tell people. There's really nothing more valuable than being healthy. You can have everything else going for you, but if you're sick, it's all basically not enjoyable, right? And again, health span and lifespan. People are living longer, but then the health span precipitously drops off. So those last, few years when you're not working and you really should be enjoying your life, people are not getting the most out of it. And that's really sad because there's plenty we can do. Most chronic disease is avoidable if people would just trust their instincts, take the bull by the horns, and just do the things that we're talking about, which ultimately the motivating factor for most of my patients, I always say to them, give me 2 weeks. Just suck it up for 2 weeks, because by the end of those 2 weeks, you're going to start to notice something. And that's when you start to really, you buy into it. You're willing to do and capable of doing more because you feel better. So I guess that's my message.
I love it. I love all of y'all's message today. It's so important. And the connection you all are talking about between health and happiness. Yes. So amazing. To all of you today, Philippe, Adria, Patrick, thank you so much for what you do in the world. And thank you for being here today to share it with everyone. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you.
Thank you, Laura.
So this is way more than a book, you guys. I have so much gratitude for the generous community that is this book and is the Brave Healer community. If something today that these authors said resonated, gave you the goosebumps, maybe you have a question or you need support, I have everybody hooked up with their websites down below. You can reach out and ask that question, carry on the conversations that we started today. This is a generous community of amazing experts who are ready to help you. So go explore, find out everything that's going on in their worlds. Yeah, big encouragement to take this interview and take some action. Buy the book, you guys. Hop over to Amazon, grab your copy of Healthy for Life today. Your life might just change with one chapter. Lastly, today, everyone, remember your words change the world when you're brave enough to share them. So it is time to be brave. See you next time, everyone.